It's the 20th anniversary. Can you believe it?
Wow, 20
We're
years.
going to explore why this show just keeps captivating audiences.
Hmm.
We've got tons of articles, interviews with past and present cast members, like the whole shebang.
It's really interesting how Wicked has stayed relevant for so long.
Right.
I mean, so many Broadway shows, they have their moment, but then they fade.
They come and go.
Yeah, but Wicked is like, it's become this cultural touchstone.
It's like a modern fairy tale almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And it all starts with such a cool concept, right? Like flipping the Wizard of Oz on its head.
Yeah.
We see everything from the witch's point of view.
Right, but it's more than just a clever twist.
Oh, for sure.
It really makes you think about the whole good versus evil thing.
So how does Wicked do that? Like, how does it turn that classic trope upside down?
Well, it shows us the human side of Elphaba and Glinda.
Okay.
We see their struggles, their dreams.
Their flaws.
Exactly. And it makes us question our own biases.
Like, what if the Wicked Witch wasn't really all that wicked after all?
Yeah, and maybe Glinda, the good witch, well, maybe she's not perfect either.
Makes you think about all the times we judge people without really knowing them.
That's exactly it. Wicked forces us to look deeper, to see beyond those easy labels.
It's not just about, like, magic and witches. It's about empathy, understanding, and challenging what society tells us to think.
Right.
And that whole theme of defying expectations really comes through in Elphaba and Glinda's friendship. I mean, they're supposed to be enemies, right? Like, that's the whole point of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But in Wicked, they create this powerful bond.
It's such a strong friendship.
Why do you think that resonates so much with people?
Well, I think it speaks to something we all crave.
Yeah,
Connection.
the longing,
Exactly. We all want to find our people, you know?
your tribe,
Yeah, those who love you for you, even the messy parts.
the imperfections.
And Elphaba and Glinda's friendship, it shows us that you don't have to fit in to be loved.
So true. And, over 80 actresses have played those roles on Broadway and all over the world.
Wow.
It's amazing. I mean, there's Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, of course, who originated the roles.
The OGs.
Right. But beyond them, there's this incredible community among all the Wicked alumni.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, Idina called them a family of women.
Oh, that's sweet.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Is that kind of bond common in theater?
I mean, there's definitely a sense of camaraderie in the theater world,
Yeah.
but with Wicked, I think there's something special, you know? Like, the roles are so demanding, the story is so emotionally charged, and they're all part of this cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, that shared experience, it must be powerful.
It definitely creates lasting bonds.
And the legacy of Wicked is inspiring, too. We have this article about Talia Suskauer.
Oh, yeah, I read that one.
She played Elphaba in 2022.
She was great. So good. But here's the thing. She was a huge Wicked fan growing up. Like, she even had pictures of Elphaba on her phone.
Oh, wow.
And then she gets to play the role on Broadway.
Talk about a dream come true.
Right. It's every theater kid's ultimate fantasy.
It really is. But I wonder, is that just a fun fact? Or does it say something about Wicked's influence on young performers?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like, what is it about Wicked that speaks to them so strongly?
Maybe it's those strong female characters, or that message of empowerment.
Could be.
Or maybe it's the music. You know, those soaring melodies in Defying Gravity.
Oh, Defying Gravity, so good.
You can't hear that and not feel inspired.
I know, it gives me chills every time.
Maybe Wicked shows aspiring performers that they can achieve anything, you know? It's like a model for challenging limits and going after your passions.
It could be. Like, it gives them permission to dream big, no matter how outside the box those dreams might be.
And it's not just about individual ambition either.
Lindsay Heather Pierce and Hannah Corno, they've both played Elphaba too.
Yeah, I know them.
And they talked about how emotional it was to introduce new audiences to Wicked.
That's interesting.
They felt this responsibility to do the show justice,
I can see that.
to carry the torch for this beloved musical.
It's like a rite of passage almost.
Totally. Like, do you remember the first time you saw Elphaba rise above the stage during Defying Gravity?
Oh, yeah. I get chills just thinking about it.
It's magical.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about the amazing people behind the scenes, too.
It's true.
The understudies, the swings, the whole creative team. They all make the magic happen.
Yeah.
We have Mackenzie Kurtz and Alyssa Fox.
They're playing Glinda and Elphaba now, right?
That's right. And they talked a lot about the collaborative spirit of the entire company.
You know, that's so important to remember. Wicked's success isn't just about the stars.
It's a team effort.
Exactly. It's about everyone working together. It's that sense of community, of shared responsibility that makes it all work. And I think that extends beyond the stage, too, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wicked has become way more than just a musical.
Right.
It's a cultural touchstone, something that gets people talking.
It definitely sparks conversations.
But how has it impacted those conversations? Like the ones about social issues, prejudice, the whole idea of good and evil.
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah, and we'll dig into that right after a word from our sponsors.
Well, Wicked isn't afraid to deal with tough issues, you know?
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, like Elphaba and Fiyero's relationship.
Oh, right.
It challenges all those ideas about beauty and who we're supposed to be attracted to.
Totally. I mean, Fiyero falls for Elphaba, the wicked one.
Right.
And it's not because of her looks. It's her intelligence, her spirit.
Exactly. It completely flips the script on the typical fairy tale romance.
It does. And what about Dr. Dillamond?
Dr. Dillamond, the talking goat.
Yeah, that whole animal rights storyline.
Oh, right.
It subtly introduces this idea of prejudice, of discrimination.
It does, yeah. And then there's the wizard himself.
Oh yeah, the wizard.
He's this manipulative figure using fear to control Oz.
It's like a commentary on power structures in our own world.
Absolutely. Wicked makes you think about those big questions, you know?
It does.
It encourages you to consider different perspectives and think critically.
And I bet that really resonates with younger generations.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're grappling with all those issues, you know?
Trying to figure it all out.
Exactly. And Wicked gives them a way to explore those themes in a safe space.
A fun way, too.
Of course. It's still a musical, after all.
Speaking of fun, we got to talk about the Wicked movie.
Oh, yeah, the movie.
So excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba.
And Ariana Grande as Glinda.
It's going to be epic.
I know.
Yeah.
But how do they capture the magic of the stage show on film?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Right. Like, will they go crazy with CGI? Or will they get creative and find new ways to show the spectacle?
Yeah, like defying gravity. How do you film that?
That's what I want to know. And the costumes, those iconic sets,
They're so important to the Wicked experience.
they have to get those right.
They do. I'm sure they'll pull out all the stops, though. It's a huge production.
Big budget, gotta be.
But they have to strike a balance, right?
Oh, totally.
Stay true to the spirit of the musical,
Right.
but also make it work for a wider audience.
A lot of people will be seeing Wicked for the first time in this movie.
Exactly. I've heard a lot of people debating whether the movie will stick to the stage show or change things up.
Oh, there's always that debate with adaptations.
What do you think they'll do?
I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, I think some adaptation is inevitable.
Yeah.
The stage show is like 3 hours long.
It's a long show.
They have to condense it for a film.
Makes sense.
The key is to keep the heart of the story intact.
The emotions, the themes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what about those political and social themes woven throughout Wicked?
no.
Do you think they'll tone those down for a bigger audience?
That's a good question. Or will they lean into them even more?
I doubt they'll shy away completely,
Okay.
but they might approach them differently.
Hope so.
Maybe through visuals or subtle changes to the dialogue.
Interesting.
It's a tightrope walk, you know? They want to appeal to everyone, but not lose what makes Wicked special.
It's going to be fascinating to see what they do.
Yeah, it will, and I bet it'll create a whole new wave of Wicked fans.
For sure. But even beyond the movie, it's amazing how Wicked has resonated with so many people for so long.
It really is. What do you think it is about this show that makes it so universally appealing?
That's a tough one.
It connects with people from all walks of life.
Across generations.
Why?
Maybe it taps into something deep within us, you know?
Yeah.
That desire for connection, for acceptance.
To be ourselves.
Exactly. To embrace who we are, even when the world tells us to be someone else.
Maybe it's that simple.
Maybe. Maybe Wicked is just reminding us that we're not alone.
In our struggles, our insecurities, our dreams.
And in a world that feels so divided.
Wicked shows us that there's always hope.
Hope for understanding.
For empathy.
For bridging the gaps between us.
Beautifully said. Makes me think about all the ways Wicked has touched people's lives.
It's more than just entertainment.
Oh, definitely. We've talked about the actors, the fans.
The creative team.
But what about the impact on the theater industry itself?
Ooh, good point. How has Wicked changed Broadway?
Well, for one thing, it's pushed the boundaries of stagecraft.
The special effects.
Exactly. I remember reading that the original production was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
All that automation, the flying effects.
Elphaba defying gravity, literally.
It was mind-blowing at the time, and it set a new standard for what's possible on stage.
Wicked raised the bar for everyone. But what about the stories we see on stage?
Oh, interesting.
Has Wicked influenced the kinds of stories we tell?
I think so. There are more female-driven narratives now.
More complex characters.
Definitely. And more musicals that tackle social issues.
Wicked was a pioneer in that sense.
Yeah, it paved the way for others to be bold, to tell stories that matter.
It gave them permission.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to our listeners for a minute. What's been the most surprising or interesting thing you've learned about Wicked today?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's how Wicked manages to be both spectacular and meaningful.
It's got it all, right?
It really does. The visuals are stunning, the music is incredible, but there's also a real depth. It makes you think.
And it doesn't feel preachy.
No, not at all. It's
Yeah.
just a great story, well told.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive into Wicked, I have a question for our listeners. We've talked about how Wicked challenges us to question what we think we know and to celebrate what makes us unique.
Right.
But it's also about the power of connection and empathy.
Yeah, definitely.
So as we look ahead to this new movie adaptation, what do you think is going to resonate most with a new generation of Wicked fans?
That's a good question. I mean, we're living in a time when it's so easy to judge people, to put them in boxes.
To make assumptions.
Yeah, based on how they look, what they believe. But Wicked reminds us to look beyond those labels, to see each other as human beings. And I think that message is more important now than ever.
I agree. And with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande playing Elphaba and Glinda, the movie's going to have a huge reach. What kind of impact do you think their performances will have on the legacy of Wicked?
Well, both of them are incredible performers. I mean, their voices are amazing, and they have this ability to connect with people on an emotional level. So I'm really curious to see how they bring their own interpretations to these characters. It could add a whole new layer of depth and meaning to the story.
I'm excited to see how they portray Elphaba and Glinda's friendship.
Oh, yeah, that's such a crucial part of Wicked.
It really resonates with people.
It does, and I think it's because it shows how a relationship can evolve, you know? From rivalry to understanding to this deep mutual respect. It's a powerful example of how women can support each other and be strong together.
And with the movie coming out, and so many people seeing it, it could spark some important conversations.
About acceptance,
Oh, Lauren.
challenging the status quo.
Right. Do you think the film will shy away from those themes? Or will it embrace them?
I think the filmmakers understand how important Wicked is to people. They know they have a responsibility to handle the story with care. I have a feeling they'll find a way to stay true to the original while also making it relevant for today's audience.
It's going to be so interesting to see how it all comes together.
I can't wait.
Well, that just about wraps up our deep dive into Wicked. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
The history of the show, the themes, its impact on theater and pop culture, and even what we can expect from the upcoming movie.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And now we want to hear from you. What are some of your favorite memories of Wicked? What are you hoping to see in the film?
Share your thoughts.
Keep the conversation going.
And until next time, remember,
There's a little bit of Wicked in all of us.
exactly. And that's something to celebrate.
That's